All right, so what we're going to discuss today is how to use Node.js and have a module here where you can upload a file and store it to a cloud service and return the IDs from that cloud service back into the server and continuation through your routes. Okay, so bear with me here. This may be a little bit complicated for some of you, but this is going to be great for those of you looking for a complete description of kind of how some of these features work. We're going to use async await. We're going to be calling an external API, and we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff, so stay with us here. So what this application does, you can add a photo here. I'm going to add a couple of photos here. It's going to upload. You're going to see check marks as soon as the end of the route is hit. Once they're all uploaded, we have IDs back from the cloud storage, and that's exactly what that check mark means right there. For the front end here, we're using Dropzone.js. It's a very simple drag and drop file with image previews on it. And, you know, very same thing that we just did here, but I have a different UI. I haven't even styled it yet. I'm still working on that. And this is the Dropzone website. Apparently the guy does songs, so he puts that up there towards the top. It's pretty easy. Let me show you what I have in terms of that. I didn't pull that out to begin with, but let's go to Views, Event Photo Input. And so this is pretty much all I have. This is what that one page entails. Let me show you the page again. And that's pretty much it. So I've got partials. I'm using EJS here, which is a bit of a lesser known one, but it was what they used for a tutorial that I was following, and I kind of like it now that I've been using it. I'm sure, as with anything in life, the more you use it, the more you get used to it, the more you like it. So this is EJS, and that's pretty much what this does. So I have a class called container because I'm using Bootstrap, and I have a row, and I call dropzone-input, or dropzone underscore input underscore div for my class here. I have another class which is right here. All right, and there's no event title, otherwise it would be spelled out right there. And I also have a form, and this is Dropzone right here. And all this is Dropzone, this whole square. I've got a form with a class of Dropzone, and once you import Dropzone, it looks for that class of Dropzone and takes care of the rest for you. Very, very simple. And I've got an action going to slash test media, the ID here, the name here, the encryption type here, or enc type. I don't think that stands for encryption. And I'm also passing the event ID through here. Okay. And that's a whole different story of another conversation. I do have another JavaScript file that I'm using for this, dropzone.js. No, this is actually where I require dropzone.js. Okay, apparently I can't find it right now. Ajax header file. List on admin page. Anyway, I thought I had another file to augment that Dropzone file. It looks like I may have deleted it at some point. I just don't remember, which is odd. So this is the full implementation of Dropzone. My server actually pushes this. I don't use a CDN. Huh. Okay, anyway. So that's Dropzone. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now, on the server side, if you look here, I call a test media is my route under action. This is going to be a put sent to test media. So if I go to my routes, right here I've got, or I'm sorry, a post, not a put. I've got a post to test media. Then I go through some middleware called Multer uploads. And then I upload my files. And then I go to my test media route, which is still under development. But just getting this far was a bit of a challenge for me, so I want to walk through this while it's still fresh in my mind. So if you wonder how this works, how come I don't have this type of a syntax here? Here's another one that I have for post save. You go to is logged in just to make sure you're logged in, and I'm not using that up here yet. Then you go to function, and then you have a new user, and you get the username, blah, blah, blah. Well, what I'm doing here is I'm using external files just to keep my routes much more clean, because this is going to be a very long route. If all this logic was in one file, I would just have one file for this one route. So instead, the best practice from what I've been told is to go ahead and put all of your routes that are grouped together with similar functionality and put them in one file. So this is called backblaze.route. Anything to do with uploading to Backblaze, I have right here, and I'm just starting this route. So it's only this one so far. And how you use this syntax where you have Multer uploads, upload files, test media, is I have to require those different files here. And how I do that is I have Multer uploads, which is required here, upload files here, and test media, which is here. Now, if you notice, these are middlewares, and I have a middleware/middleware file, which is right here, middleware/middleware. Okay, and so all of these are in this middleware file, which is over here. And so there's is logged in, which I also have here. And then here is upload files, which is here. And this is Multer uploads, which is here. Now there's one other thing to take these variables and make them available to another file. At the bottom of your folder of your page here, you do module.exports and you export the function names here. So basically I take the function name, I do the req, res next, and then arrow function out and do my thing, and then I can export it here, I can require it here in another file, and I can use it here in that file, and then it will be passed through. Okay, so go to Multer uploads, and here's Multer upload. It's right here. In a Multer upload, I'm utilizing Multer, so I'm requiring Multer here. I'm utilizing Multer, and I'm calling the storage. I'm letting it know where I want to store the files I'm going to receive, and I want it to be storage, and storage is actually here. And I'm calling multer.memory storage. Memory storage is a method within Multer. You can read about that in the documentation. It's pretty simple. I just called memory storage, and so just by having this line here, I have this line here. Now I also appended a .any. You'll see oftentimes a .single used, but I'm using .any because I want multiple files to be uploaded. I'm not just uploading one file at a time. There may be some benefit and drawback to using .any over .single, but I'm doing this. All right, so once that's done, once Multer uploads is done, it's going to call upload files, and upload files is located here. And with upload files, I actually make a call to my B2 object storage with Backblaze. Object storage is very similar to Amazon S3, but this is much less expensive. And so here's the Multer npm module. If you want to read a lot more about this, you can through the npm docs right there. And I also am using Backblaze B2, which appears to be the most widely used B2 module. It's updated 10 months ago, so they are maintaining the module, which is another reason why I used it. And they use promises, which is, we're going to get into that in a little bit. And so I'm using async await, so they have an async function called getBuckets here. They're awaiting the B2 authorization, and then this response are going to await the B2 list buckets, which they're calling after this authorize. So once you're authorized, I want you to list the buckets, but I want you to wait until you receive the buckets, and then this response.data is a list of all those buckets. I hope that made sense. So I'm doing something very similar here. I'm using async await inside of my upload files, and I'm calling async. I'm using req request response next here, and I want to call authorize so I can get authorized to upload my files, and I'm going to wait until that's done. And I want to have two arrays here, two empty arrays that I'm going to push information to. And then I have an upload promises function, which I have here, which I'm going to map over req.files, which is all the files that I'm uploading when I come here and I do this. I select multiple files. Okay, so when I hit open on those, it's going to go through there, and it's going through here, and for each of the files, it's doing a map function async or synchronously, but I have to call async here, and this makes it synchronous when I say await. All right, so each file is going to synchronously await get loading and upload URL, and I'm going to retrieve these two values out of that upload URL. And if you were to console log what you get back from this, you will receive upload URL and authorization token as two separate fields with two separate values, and I'm storing them here using this syntax. Okay, so I don't have to wait for a callback or anything. You can use this syntax, which is pretty cool. I believe it's called destructuring. can do some more research on that. Destructuring is pretty cool. Saves a lot of stuff. It just looks a little bit funky. So then after I've waited to get this back, I have to upload my file, and I'm awaiting the upload of each file. And again, this is in this map function, so I'm doing all of this to everything in the map of request.files, which is each of those images. And then once all of those are complete, I have file.info, and file.info gets completed after each upload file, and then that waits for this to happen, and that waits for this to happen, and all this is within upload promises. I know this is kind of confusing. I'm probably not explaining this the best I can, but I'm doing the best I can. And then this is really where it all comes together. This is kind of a garbled mess. This makes sense. I think this makes sense. This is kind of a garbled mess, but this is where it all comes together. So promise.all, whenever you call promise.all, you're waiting for all of these promises to be returned before it moves forward. So I'm waiting for all of upload promise to finish, and that's pretty much what this async means right here. This async await says, hey, I want you to await for this to happen. I want you to wait for this to happen. And when that happens, go ahead and shoot off upload promises. And this is complete. And in upload promises, I'm using that within promise.all. Okay, so whenever this is done, I'm still awaiting. So after all that is done, once all these promises are complete, I'm going to wait until all these promises are complete. And once after that's done, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to append res.locals.ids to my file IDs, which I have up here as a variable, and I'm pushing to that file IDs right here. File IDs.push file info.file ID. So my file info is this. So whenever this is done, I have file info, and the file IDs are what I want out of that file info. And now that's going to be pushed into this. So this is going to be blah, blah, blah. It's going to be this, my file ID. Okay, that's exactly what that is. That's my file ID being pushed. And then I have file photos push file.buffer. This is for something I'm going to do later on, which actually, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not using it. What I was going to do is I was going to save the photo itself instead of just the ID, and I was going to push it to the next route. But you know what? After talking with a buddy of mine, we're not doing that anymore. So after all this is done, I'm going to push push all those file IDs, which is all of these in one array. Push all of those to res.locals.ids. Okay, now I could probably actually do that. I could probably throw this in here and save something, but I'm not going to get into that. I have this working right now, so I'm sure there's some more optimization to be had here. And I was going to store res.locals.photos, but I'm not going to do that either. And then I call next, which finishes my middleware. You need this at the end of your middleware, and you can have this anywhere. You can have a couple functions deep or something like that, and if something happens in a specific fashion, you can exit the middleware after calling this next. I believe that's how that works. Okay, so after that's uploaded, upload files here, and then it calls test media, and test media is over here in the controller. And right now all I have is I have it console logging res.locals.ids, which you can see we used right here. Res.locals.ids. This is exactly what we're calling here. So what we're doing here is we're saving what we're returning out of all this stuff into that location so I can use it in my next route. That's exactly what I'm doing there. So I'm passing that data through to this middleware, and then I'm using locals.ids to use so I stripped out what I wanted, which is the file IDs, and then I'm losing them here. So in test media, what I'm going to do is save these to the database, and then after that's saved, I'm going to push the user to another page that actually uses those IDs to get photos back from the B2 storage. And that's it, guys. That's basically it. That's all I've got. And I hope that's clear. I know it was a little bit messy, but sometimes these things are. So this little segment of code here is really what I struggled with for many days to try to get this to work, so I could output the array of all of these files uploaded. But I need all the files to be uploaded so I can make one database call. And I think that's important for performance, is making one database call instead of 4 separate calls. What if I want to upload 30 photos? I don't want to make 30 different database calls. I want to make one. Be much more performant, I believe. So that's my rationale for doing that, and that's exactly what I wanted to do there. But study this if you guys want to. I don't really have, I know you guys don't know what all of these do. Well, let me walk you through it. Let's make this video just a little bit longer. I'm just going to walk through this function explicitly and exactly what this does if you guys want to hang around. If not, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. All right, so when I upload files, I automatically get a request, a response, and you have to call a next function as well. And I want to use the async function of JavaScript, which allows me to be asynchronous or synchronous, depending on what I want to do. And I have the option using this. So I'm using async. And when people say you have to have an async function, this is my async function. This is an ES6 arrow function right there. And that's the syntax that you use instead of saying function, then having parentheses. So essentially this is equal to this. Okay? 2 characters instead of, I know I misspelled function there, instead of 8. So nothing major there. That's the only difference between those two. No other differences at all. Syntactical sugar. So that's ES6 syntax. And then I have to authorize myself on the B2 platform that I'm going to upload a file. So how am I authorize? Now this authorize, I'm calling B2 and I instantiate B2 here. Okay, and I'm calling a new B2 object, and I'm giving it my account ID and my application ID, which is all done in my .env file, which I'm not going to show you. But you can use the .env file, and I'm using the .env, dot.env. This is an npm module. You can go ahead and look that up. It's pretty simple. You basically you make a .env file like this in the main directory, so not within a folder. Right, just right up front here, .env, and then what I have is I have B2 account and B2 master application key. Those are stored as variables with the associated keys, and then I can call it just like this. So if I do send this out to GitHub or whatnot, I'm not actually giving out my very good information that you can probably delete all my stuff with. So that's what that B2 calls. So authorize does stuff, and I'm waiting for that stuff to be done. So hopefully right now this part's pretty simple. This async gives me the ability to use this await. If it wasn't for this await, I would call B2 authorize. I'd move on to upload promises instantly before this is completed. And then I would instantly move into mapping these, and I would instantly move into getting my upload URLs, and then I would not be able to get the authorization token or the upload file. I ran into that problem, which is why you have to await. So I'm stopping the code here synchronously, and I'm waiting for this to happen. Once that happens, I'm moving on to this, which is right there. There's the end of that section of code. Okay? So I'm moving on to this. Now within this variable, and all this is called within this variable, which as you know we use right there. Okay, so in the end, this is pretty much all so I can do this. Those 2 lines of code, that's all so I can do this. Literally, that's what all this is for. So I have a variable here, and within this variable, I'm using a map of all those files as we discussed. All the images that you want to upload are here under rec.files. And the reason rec.files even works is because I used that Multer middleware. Multer gives you rec.files. If you didn't have rec.files, it would be something else. So rec.files.map, and then again I'm going async here because I want this code to give me something, and I want all this to finish before I call this variable, before this is usable. So, and also within here, it's kind of backwards. So I'm awaiting to get the upload URL here. Now what happens within B2? So you authorize B2, and then you call get upload URL. It's going to give you a separate URL to upload to, as well as an authorization token. So here's your URL, here's your authorization token. I need those to upload the files. So I have to authorize myself, I have to get the token, I have to get the URL. After that, once I have these, and that's what await means here, so I'm waiting for this, And then I'm going to upload these files under file info. Okay, now keep in mind this file info is another variable, and I'm awaiting the response of this. Okay, I'm awaiting the response of this, and even this is still within the variable right here. Okay, so with each one, I'm getting, with each file info that I'm receiving from my uploading the file. So upload the file, I get a response. One of the fields I get is file ID. So I'm calling fileinfo.fileID here. So after each episode of this map here, and you can see right there, this is within the loop essentially, right? The map kind of creates a loop, if you will. All right. So after each one, I'm appending to file IDs that file ID that I received while uploading the file. So I have fileinfo.fileIDs, and I'm appending it to this. Once all that is done, then I can do, once all those promises are returned in upload promise, promise.all will fire, and I'm waiting for this to fire before I append all of the file IDs which I've just aggregated by using this loop and by waiting for all of these things to happen. I'm appending that to res.locals.ids. Now I can use these 4 IDs in res.locals.ids. And that's exactly what this does. I hope that's a little bit clearer now that I spent a few minutes to explain that just this one section. Because all this other crap does is allow this to do this. It's pretty much all it is. And it took me a lot of time to figure it out, and I didn't figure it out nearby myself. I actually want to give a shout out to the Node.js Discord channel. I'll go ahead and show it over here. Node.js is called Node iFlux, and I actually found this on the Node website, and a gentleman here helped me out tremendously. I want to give a shout out to Any Tony here. This is the gentleman that really helped me out on that. I mean, that literally would not have been possible if it wasn't for this gentleman. Most of that is his code. 90% of that is his code. So big shout out to him. I really thank you for your help. And hopefully I can help other people out with explaining this like you've helped me out. And that's about it. So this is, my specific use case. Yours may be different, but the syntax that he showed here to me really just opened my mind to how promises and async await works, and how you can use them together to perform something synchronously such as this and get the result that you're looking for. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging through that extra explanation. I'll see you guys next time.